Okay, in this video, we are going to go over a very difficult type of question, and one that you'll definitely see at the higher levels, meaning if you get the more difficult section for verbal, you'll see a lot of these. And these are a subset of inference questions, which of course are difficult in of themselves, and you'll usually see words like infer to know that you're dealing with an inference question. But with this type of inference question, you don't really see the words infer, but this type of question is called a parallel reasoning question. What the parallel reasoning question requires of you is that you take a situation and then you find something that is most similar or parallel to it. Not in terms of superficial similarities, as we'll see in a moment, but in terms of the logic. Now, let's read this question and go back to the passage and see how a parallel reasoning question works. So here we go. Which of the following would most likely represent a paradigm shift as described in the passage? So when we go back to the passage, we have to ask ourselves again, what is a paradigm shift? So in the passage itself, it says here that a paradigm shift is this moment, this precise moment when there's a tilt or a change between an old worldview and a new one. So there's a certain way of seeing the world. That is worldview. Way of seeing the world. And so now there's a shift. We no longer see things in the way we did before. We interpret them differently. Here we're dealing with archaeology. And so there's been this paradigm shift. They interpret something differently. So this is this critical moment. It's a big deal. There's a shift in perception. Okay, that's what we're looking for, that paradigm shift, that shift in perception in one of the following. And so we go back here to the answer choices, and we try to see, well, where is there a shift in the way that we look back at an event, something that happened? So we look at A. An archaeologist claims to have unearthed remnants of an arrowhead that once subjected to carbon-14 dating turns out to be produced not by human agency, but by natural geological forces. So you'll notice there are superficial similarities here. Archaeology, archaeologist. Most of the times, this is the trap answer. What's this saying? Well, someone found an arrowhead and they thought, oh, it's part of this old civilization, and then it turns out that, oh, it's not even an arrowhead, it's just a rock. So is that a shift in the way we see the world, that we see history or interpret history? No, that's called a mistake. B, scientists discover that iridium, once only thought to have extraterrestrial origins, can now be found in the Earth's mantle, thereby seriously challenging the prevailing notion that iridium sediments corresponding to the Cretaceous period must have come from a meteor. So we know in a paradigm shift, we have two ways of thinking, the old way and the new way, as we learned from the passage. And the new way says, we learned something new, therefore we're going to interpret the past differently. There's going to be a new story. And again, you can always go back to the passage just to see some of these keywords. Here's this new story. A new story is getting told. And answer choice B, the new story, is here about this iridium. What does this iridium mean? Well, before, scientists thought it only came from meteorites, but now we see that, oh, iridium can come from something else. It can come from where? The Earth's mantle. So that's going to challenge this prevailing notion. So now there's going to be a new story. The iridium from the Cretaceous period may have also come from the Earth's mantle, therefore it wasn't necessarily a meteorite that struck. And that's the answer. And you see how this is different in terms of it's not necessarily archaeology, because archaeology deals with remnants from peoples, and this, of course, is just geological stuff. But the reasoning is the same. There simply is a paradigm shift. And that's why B is the answer. So let's look at the other ones and see why they don't work. C, each year computers come out with a prime number that is larger than any preceding prime number, thus confirming the postulates of 19th century mathematicians that the number of prime numbers is infinite. Okay, is there a shift? No, we have confirming postulates, so we get rid of C. D, using sophisticated equipment, astronomers have been able to determine that the amount of dark matter may be even more than thought before, number almost double. Okay, well, that's their last estimate. Is that necessarily the same as a new story? Oh, it's more than we thought. It's double our last estimate, so it's time for a whole new story. No, you have to seriously challenge something else. You have to say something is wrong. We're going against this way of looking at the world. Here it's simply saying it's a little bit more than we thought. So D is out. E, a geologist claims that the continents are constantly moving on large plates that are located miles underneath the surface of the Earth, a claim that the scientific community deems preposterous. So, scientific community deems as preposterous. The idea doesn't gain ascendancy or doesn't really take over it. There's no challenge to the prevailing notion that geologists simply think, oh, that theory is very wrong. So that's why E doesn't work. So you can see that, yes, these are very difficult questions. They will take a lot of time. In terms of skipping this question, it would be a great idea if you don't have much time and spending that time on questions that do not take as long. Of course, if you do have a lot of time, then you'll need it to get through this question in a way that is accurate and, of course, effective. And so again, in our case, with this question, our answer was B. And now you know how to deal with one of the hardest question types on reading comprehension, parallel reasoning.